The night sky has been a source of inspiration and awe to humanity for millennia. When was the last time you looked at the stars? Yesterday? Last week? Maybe a couple years ago? Or maybe you've never seen the Milky Way with your naked eye, and that's okay. 80% of Americans can't see the Milky Way anyways. But if you're attending NAU, you will be in luck. Our campus is located in the world's first international dark sky city, also known as Flagstaff, Arizona. In this episode, we will explore some of the benefits of dark skies and tackle some of the misunderstandings associated with artificial lighting. I'm your host, and welcome to Terra Bytes. Terra Bytes was created for the Environmental Caucus of Northern Arizona University's Office of Sustainability. This podcast is a platform to showcase sustainable movements in and around NAU. Before we jump into our second episode, I would like to thank Lance Diskin of Flagstaff Dark Sky Coalition for inspiring today's topic. To learn more about the Flagstaff Dark Sky Coalition, check out their website at www.flagstaffdarkskies.org. When I first moved to Flagstaff, I was struck by how beautiful the tiny city was. In addition to the plethora of flora and the looming peaks just north of campus, most students will notice how dark NAU's campus is at night. Which often leads to the question, why? So I took the opportunity to reach out to a specialist to gain a better understanding as to why our campus utilizes amber lighting instead of the customary white lights associated with cityscapes. I asked Mark Stento to provide a brief description of his role as dark sky compliance specialist and to shed some light about Flagstaff's role as a leader in dark sky policy.
Sure. I work for City of Flagstaff Code Enforcement. I also work for Coconino County Code Enforcement through an intergovernmental agreement between the two agencies. My position was identified as a priority through Coconino County, the city, and the Naval Observatory's joint land use study, which was initiated offhand about 4 years ago. That study identified light pollution as an increasing threat to Naval Observatory Station Flagstaff, Camp Navajo, Coconino County, City of Flagstaff, and Lowell Observatory, and determined that a dedicated enforcement position would be needed to help mitigate light pollution to support those agencies going forward. Naval Observatory Flagstaff Station actually has a dedicated national security mission. They don't just do astronomy, they track aerial objects. Obviously, Lowell has been here since the late 1800s, and City of Flagstaff is the first international dark sky city as of 2001. So it's a big deal in the area.
Although Flagstaff has been working on these policies since the 70s, research about light pollution and its impacts are a relatively new field of study. In addition to making sky observations difficult, there are unforeseen consequences associated with light pollution.
What's most damaging to, I'd say, human and nocturnal wildlife is the blue light emissions at night. One, they're much brighter to the human eye than other wavelengths of light at night. And they disrupt human circadian rhythms, cause all sorts of havoc for animals.
Circadian rhythms may not be familiar to our listeners. Essentially, the human body works on a biological clock that is dependent upon the light emitted from the sun. As sunlight begins to fade, our body begins to secrete melatonin to induce sleep. When exposure to artificial lighting at night, also known as ALAN, this function is interrupted. Studies on irregular sleep patterns have shown links between poor sleep qualities and decreased cognitive performance, and an increased likelihood of heart disease and weight gain. The impact of ALAN is not exclusive to humans. Artificial lighting has a detrimental impact upon nocturnal predators and their ability to hunt. Additionally, ALAN is often associated with empirical energy waste. The amount of light used to illuminate a city often only benefits a select population of night owls. More often than not, these light-filled streets are empty. However, these are all secondary indicators of the environment's health. If you want to look at a primary source, you may have to look beyond kingdom Animalia. A paper published by the Journal of Ecology explores the effects of artificial light on wild plants. Jonathan Benny explores how plants utilize light beyond photosynthesis. Benny suggests that the plants leverage other photoreceptors to measure time and seasonal changes. This is to help plants allocate their resources appropriately. For example, as the days become shorter, trees begin to lose their leaves as a means to preserve their energy for winter ahead and to minimize exposure to frost damage. When the temperature begins to warm up and the hours of daylight begin to grow, plants start to exert huge amounts of energy to blossom in order to attract pollinators. So hypothetically speaking, if artificial lighting messes with the plant's ability to tell time, it could start an undesirable chain reaction throughout an entire ecosystem. But that is the worst case scenario, and more than likely it'll never happen, but you get the picture. Fortunately, the city of Flagstaff has created Mark's position to ensure that Allen cannot have its way.
I get out there with my spectrometer and I analyze these spectra to determine what the lights are and ascertain impact, essentially. And then bring folks into compliance with current code. As an example, this is what most folks' lights should look like, at least in the multifamily residential sectors. Notice the spectrum, the visible light spectrum produced is much, much narrower and much more biased toward the oranges and the reds. I'm going to go ahead and close that out because I don't want to get too technical in this. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for out there in the field. I say we, but me. The technology is also in use by the coalition, which I know you've had interactions with. We actually were referred that visible light spectrometer that we use by the coalition. We are the only agency performing enforcement like we're doing.
The policies created by Flagstaff can be considered pioneering. These standards are not exclusive to Flagstaff City Center or neighborhoods. The influence of Flagstaff's dark sky policy can be felt on NAU's campus, too. In regards to the amber lighting on campus, there is no formal relationship between the city and NAU. Even so, if you're wandering around campus around the wee hours, you'll notice the campus is really dark. In fact, back in fall 2019, a student wrote a short article in the Lumberjack advocating for, air quotes, better lighting on campus. Something along the lines of brighter and whiter lighting will allow students to feel safe as they walk around campus. Which sounds ideal, but the reality of Allen is not as it is commonly perceived. The International Dark Sky Association, also known as IDA, published a brochure that elucidates some of the myths associated with artificial lighting at night. Although sun-like lights can make humans feel safe in concrete jungles, studies have shown that too much lighting can have the opposite effect. For example, have you ever gone camping? Maybe late one night you decide to set up a campfire. The warm glow illuminates your campsite, offering you comfort from the pressing night sky. You hear a tree branch snap, and naturally you turn to peer into the darkness. You can't see a thing. That's because the glare from the fire creates deeper shadows and prevents your eyes from dilating properly. Similar properties can be applied to cityscapes with bright white lights. The harsh contrast between the street light and shadows make it difficult for pedestrians to stay alert. So, how do you create a safer night environment? It's easy. Better light shielding, smarter lighting placement, and mindful use. Better shielding simply means keeping Allen face down towards the ground. There's no need to light up the night sky. Second, smarter lighting placement is key to reducing harsh and deep shadows, preferably placing streetlights away from trees and buildings that can create shadows that obscure pedestrians' vision. Third, mindful use of lighting. Turning off your lights that are not in use can have a positive impact on the night sky and your wallet. Also, switching to narrow spectrum amber lighting can provide your weary eyes a break from harsh blue lights. And finally, don't forget to look up every once in a while. Who knows what the night sky has to offer? But there's only one way to find out. Thank you for tuning in to Terra Bytes. I hope you enjoyed our second episode. This podcast was written and produced for Northern Arizona University's Office of Sustainability. If you want to learn more about our office, check out our website at green.nau.edu. Join our culture of sustainability. And finally, a special shout out to Lujo, a hidden gem in Flagstaff's music scene. Stay easy, my friends. Peace.